and then you see the people in the comments. They're like, meh, 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 show you, meh, meh. Like, dude, whoa, wow. All righty. And we are Hot Thursday, April 9th. 7:47. Wow, 7:47. Interesting. And we had a pretty interesting night. I'm looking at gold. I continue to look at gold. Gold has, I have to say, gold is like slowly starting to take over my interest. And and it's a good thing. The one thing I want to say is really interesting. Last night I traded gold, and this 47.32 down to 47.28. This area got tested and tested and tested, and was really resilient last night in holding up all night. And it's been up and away. I mean, and it has tested. So I mean, look, I'm not going to say that I was able to look. I'm actually showing this stupid thing, but it's this 47.28 area to like 47.32 held like a champ last night. And it's been pretty much freaking 36 degrees, and it's frost out, and it's April, right? Yeah, right. Global warming my ass. So, and I'm not going to say I hung in there and rode through this, but it did show a lot of resiliency, and a big bounce this morning, mainly around the London Open or so. This would be, I guess, 2 o'clock would be the London Open. So maybe it was a little later, but it looks like around 4 o'clock this morning, it pretty much took off and is continuing to take off. Don't see too many pullbacks. You basically had one shot here at around 6:30. 6:30. This is a 5-minute candle, so this looks like this is about 6:15, and it's been up and away. Now, I didn't look at any news or anything like that. I'm trying to keep my brain a bit filtered from a lot of the news, because I think what's actually going on, and it's actually a little frustrating. I think there's forces going on out there that want this whole thing to blow up, and they want this thing to fail. They don't want this. I mean, and I guess there's a lot of people's livelihoods that are on the line as far as keeping things chaotic over there. And, I just look at it that I think a lot of the news coming out is bullshit. I mean, a lot of it seems to be bullshit, because it's like, you see these headlines, and then the next thing you see, 5 other headlines that say, oh, well, no, that didn't happen, this did. No, that didn't happen, this did. And it's almost like, it's outwardly trying to manipulate the market and manipulate the whatever's going on over there. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm some expert in geopolitics, but it all smells like, I always say, if it smells like fish and it looks like fish, it probably, and stinks like fish, it's probably fish. And something just smells fishy over there to me. Like, whoever's producing a lot of these headlines may not even be the people who they're even dealing with. So anyway, so I'm trying to filter myself a little bit. And I can't completely insulate myself away. But I found when I did that last night, I was able to take trades in gold and do pretty well. And I traded this range. fairly reasonably. You know, I made some money. I did break in my new Lucid account finally. So I did some trades in that. I really like that platform. And that's kind of where we're at in gold. And so I think the trade in gold is going to continue to be, now if you go to an hourly, the trade in gold is going to continue to be, I think, on the bullish side. And you're going to want to keep buying pullbacks. You know, next spot of interest is going to be down here near S1, which is about 47.3140. So you have S1 at 47.31, and then you also have this swing low, 47.1870. So you're going to want to look, and what's interesting is that also corresponds with a previous swing high before and another rally. So, you know, you kind of have a few things. And up and above that, there's also a low volume node in this area, 47.28. So again, you know, good area to just put some alerts in. I would put them in. I'm going to put one in at 47.28, which is a little higher because I want to be engaged before, because gold moves fast. And that's where I'm going with that. And that's all I have to say about that. But that's one spot that I particularly like. That's an S1 on 04. There's a lot going on here. Like I said, there's a ton in this spot. You also have a swing low and a low volume node. Okay, and so it's important you note that, because you kind of have, when you start having multiple things happening around levels, I mean, that's what indicators and marking your charts and all this other stuff are for, is so that you can develop a kind of a skill for like what levels are important. Because, you know, if things happen at that certain price, or there's a lot of things going on at a certain price, chances are there's something going on there, right? There's a lot of buyers down there. You know, at this particular time. Right? And last time we came up here and we came here, it was a breakout. Right? It broke out. It actually, you know, if you look back here, bang, 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 banging its head, came down, made support, right? Breakout, boom, resistance, right? Scale down, up, find support, move up, higher. Now the next move, you know, if you're looking for a big move, it's got to break out above here. So that's going to be the next spot. So you have that area. Then you also have what I'm going to mark R1 at 40. What was that? 45.59. I need to make those bigger. Let's see if I can make those bigger, because I'm an old fart and I can't see shit sometimes. I can't see nothing. No, there's no font. Why is there no font? There is no font in here. You can't make it bigger. You can't make it any bigger. No, sirree. That sucks. Who the hell creates an indicator and doesn't put fonts in? Is it in here, maybe? No. There is no fonts. No fonts. No fonts. All right. So there's no fonts, so I'm going to have to squint. And my father told me not to do that, or else I'll have to wear, you know, or I'm going to go blind. So I just decided to do it until I needed glasses, if you know what I mean. So 48.59. So I'm going to actually mark that 48.59. 48.59. I'm going to say it like a douchebag. 48.59. Right. And then you have, and then this is also an R1 on 04. 26. Yeah, I mean that's enough for that one because there's really nothing else going on up there. And then also I'm going to mark this swing high up here, 48.87. 48.87. And for those of you wondering what I'm doing here with writing this in here, I'm in the process, and I think I said it before, and I'm still not ready to kind of go there yet. But I'm in the process of building or putting together a Discord. I'm just apprehensive, to be honest, folks. I don't want. I want to do something, but I don't want to become a slave to it. Because it often happens, in the last time that I did it, and I did a couple of solo ventures, what often happens is that people become, even when it's free, people just become a pain in the fucking ass, honestly. And they do. They become a real pain in the ass, even when it's free. And I don't want to be a slave to it. And I don't want to open it up and start letting people in. And then I get disgusted with it, and then because I've been known to just shut it down and be like, you know what, fuck this. You people are fucking assholes, and I don't want to be a slave to it. I want to do it in my leisure, and I don't want it to be my fucking job to manage a Discord. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm doing. That's why I'm putting in those alerts, because they actually get fed into a Discord. And they get alerted there. So that's kind of it as far as gold and some spots that I'm going to be looking at today. Obviously, I could probably get in the weeds but as far as what I'm going to be looking at here and now, that's basically it. And I think the overall trend for gold, and we get rid of some of this stuff and just clean it up for you folks, because I always believe that a clean chart is a lean chart and is the ones that paint the best pictures without all the other crap in there. But as you can see, gold, this is a 4-hour gold on the mend, right? I mean, I took these lines out because I have the indicator now that's doing that for me, and I didn't want to clutter the chart up. But you can clearly see, if I drew a line here, right? You could see this stair step up now in gold, where it does appear that, we have, I think, a true trend change from the drawdown that we have been going through for the last month and a half or so. So we'll see if it continues. But again, I think your best trades are going to be, obviously, I think, to the upside. They may be a little harder to take, but that's kind of where I'm at with gold. There is a lot of inventory to grind through up here, though. So I'm expecting gold to kind of be a choppy ride. So that's the story in gold. We will move over to the NASDAQ. I always like to start out from the bigger picture. Highs overnight from yesterday, 25,250 or so. Lows, 24,359. So pretty decent range, right? Basically that one huge candle in there from yesterday, right, which every equity chart is going to have. And we really haven't had much of an uptick since pinning those highs, though. It was pretty much sell that rip most of the day, but it wasn't a mad dash sell, which tells me that a lot of, it wasn't just short covering. It quite possibly was a lot of new, fresh money that was sitting on the sidelines that came in and felt like they had to get almost like that fear of missing out. Because I have to believe if it was real, true short covering, I would have to believe we would have retraced probably more than half of this move from yesterday. Again, time will tell. But again, just from the price action, that's kind of what I'm seeing there on the NASDAQ. And I think we kind of have a area now where, you could put in some pretty clear levels now that we could be in a bit of maybe a sentiment change, irregardless of what happens. Like, obviously it's still going to be contingent on all the crap going on over in the Middle East. But I think this rally did at least save the market short term from, another bad leg down to where we would be considered in bearish like territory and give all the bears kind of their day in court. I think right now you actually need to be more neutral, I would say. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at on the NASDAQ. A lot of, if you look back here though, there is a lot of viva la resistance up here. See that? A lot of resistance up there. You have a number of, this is going back from March. We could not get through here. Not two, not three, but even yesterday, we could not get up through there. So that, to me, is a level that you're going to want to mark in the sand. And, and if we're going to be a bullish type of sentiment, that seems to me the line in the sand right now for this thing to it's either going to break out through there, and then we'll be up into the next level, or we just can't get through there and then we get stuck in this zone again, where we kind of basically been. You can even draw another line down here, and right, you see this range that we broke out of yesterday. We did break out of that range. You see, we couldn't even short term. We had a problem getting through there. We broke down through there. You do have this pretty significant range here that we're kind of, if we're going to break out, we're going to break out. Then maybe we get into a different range. But I think right now we're going to be range bound in here on the NASDAQ. So just be aware of that. All right. And so that's kind of that's the 1 hour. It looks mighty the same on the 4 hour as well. And again, I'm looking short term. I mean, long term, and we have to get through this before we start looking at these. And it's always, it's fine to kind of go out here and look at this, but, you kind of want to keep the goggles focused, right? Look out longer term, but keep the goggles focused on things that can possibly happen today, right? Because as day traders and futures traders, if you were a swing trader, yeah, maybe you're looking at these, or if you're doing options and whatnot, and I probably am going to be looking out that way as well. But for now, and as a day trader, I'm looking in here because this is kind of where we're at. All right, and then as we start to drill in, it becomes more and more clear right? You can even see that one candle, pretty much no volume at all traded in there. So there's gonna, again, they're gonna have to fill all this in, and we're kind of in unknown territory because are they gonna hold it? And I mean, if you're looking at it from I always say from a tree branch point of view, there is no sticks in the tree sticking out for this thing to kind of stop itself other than what's down here. Again, this short term. If we go on the 4 hour, obviously there's, tons of stuff here. But shorter term, there's not a lot in there to go by. All right. And so anyway, so now we go into the 5 minute or even the 15 minute, or even 5 minutes, probably the best. And then we put the pivots back. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a tough, that's why I'm going to be watching gold, because I think gold has a little bit better structure to trade right now. This is a very difficult structure to trade, in my opinion, because, again, you don't have any, you really have no short-term reference on what the market's going to do from here all the way down to this other yellow line. Even though we've been trading in this zone for the last day and a half, you really don't know what's going to happen when we start retracing these levels down here. Because even though they might be a swing low, there's nothing short term to tell me like, hey, the last time we were down here last week, the buyers came in or whatever. There's just nothing. I mean, this whole move happened literally on like no volume, which is kind of a bad thing if you're looking for like a support and resistance trade. Because again, look, there's nothing here. There is nothing. And so I'm likely, and here's what it looks like a little more focused in, I'm likely not going to trade equities today because of this. Not going to say it's completely off the mark, but we do have, when we do go to the 5, let's go to the 15, because the 15 might be a little bit cleaner. There are a few spots. You can see they are kind of lining up. You do have this area down here at these 4 928s, which look very interesting to me. And then if we go to the 5 minute, more resistance up in this area, these 2556s that we could not get through. Earlier this morning, and this is the London Open here. This one right there. Where's my tool? Where the hell's my tool? We could probably just do, where are shapes? Do that little happy face. But this is the London Open here. And we could not get through that. And that was actually triggered a pretty short-term kind of sell-off there. We've since recovered. But and then we couldn't get through there earlier. So again, maybe not a bad spot to be engaged. But multiple touches there does kind of make it suspect that it could run through. So if I was looking for short trades, there's probably one coming up here. But I would have to watch this and look for a reversal before I'd actually just go and short this. But there does seem to be some resistance there, and I'm going to call it 25.59. 25.59. All right, next spot's going to be up here, 25.96s. And then 25.131s. All right. And that's kind of the story there in the NASDAQ. And then obviously I would keep an eye on this area down here, this 24,962s. For some possible support. And then, I am looking at this too, even though it didn't align with this. You also have 24,981s. All right. Then we just look for some high volume nodes. So this area between 2569.75 and up here at 2586, these are going to be two big good areas, because again, this one more specifically, because look, it's a swing high from back yesterday, but it's also, there's a high volume node there, and then just below that there's a low volume node. So again, going to be a good area from this area all the way up here. All the way up here is going to be a good area to look for some shorts, but likely you got to be a little selective on your entry, because likely you're going to get a bit of slippage in here where, we actually may break through here and then exhaust. So you're going to have to look for, again, you're going to have to watch these areas for reversals before you just jump in and do something. All right, so those are two spots on the NASDAQ that I like. I'm not going to get in the weeds up here, 25,131s. If we get up there, that's fine. But if you are using that indicator, even better. As I said, I'll just put it out there again. A few folks have sent me and asked me that it's pretty sensitivity. It's pivots, sensitivity 10. I use zones. This is 200. I think this is out of the gate. I don't remember changing this. It's 0.5. It's merge. It's 5, and that is it. Everything else is 0. I don't have any minimum requirements, minimum traded volume. I mean, I could actually start doing all that, and it's been working the way I expect it to and the way I've wanted it to, so I really haven't wanted to mess with it. And then you can change this color yourself, whatever colors you want. And then as far as style, I don't do the table. There's a table that's up here. That's, again, I think it's just a pain in the ass. I don't need another thing of numbers. So I'm just using boxes and lines. All right? And that's it. And I turn it off and on, depending on whether I want to see some stuff. I really like that. And I'm actually surprised, because Lux Algo stuff is usually pretty trash. But I have to hats off to them. It's actually a pretty good indicator. So anyway, that's the NASDAQ. Let's move on over to the Russell. The Russell is going to be relatively close to the NASDAQ. I will say this, the Russell has been a bit of it's been a grind. It's not moved as fluently as the others, and I am getting a little frustrated with it. I've been trading it now for a while again, and it seemed to be treating me right. And now recently, it does seem like it's getting a little slow, and it has definitely frustrated the shit out of me. But we definitely have some levels here at R2. I will definitely take and look at, you have a number of things, right? We have R1, we have yesterday's highs, you have R2, you have a swing high, a couple of swing highs, 1, 2 stacked on top of each other. So a lot going on around up in this area for resistance. So you're going to want to be awake at those levels. I'm going to call the engagement price here at R1, which is 2660. But this could quite possibly drift all the way up into one of these other areas up here. So again, you're going to, if it goes through here and it does breach. You got highs the highs from yesterday. You're going to have to do a little bit of patience and wait for that reversal. But this all looks like a really good area here for some shorts. And that's where I'd be looking to short this if I was looking to short it, would be up there. Now, as far as longs, I don't really see anything. Let me see. Let's go to the 15-minute. I didn't really see anything, even when I was looking yesterday, that there was really much of anything down here to trade. And again, it's because you got this big, long candle, and it kind of changes everything. As far as the way I trade, right, which is support and resistance. Now, if I go to the 5-minute, it's going to probably give me a few spots that I should probably be aware of. Your 26.13s. Probably keep an eye on those for a short-term trade. Again, watch for a reversal. I'm not going to just jump in because, underneath that, there's nothing. So I got to be, as much as that looks like, it looks ripe on the 5-minute, there's really nothing else. Like, I can't look back and say, all right, we came down here just yesterday. But again, it was after this big, huge candle. So I don't know if there's going to be a lot of there at that. So I'm going to have to be really aware of what happens and how the market's trading when it gets down into that area. I'm not too crazy about a short at 26.21. I much better like the shorts up here at 28 or 26.31 and even 26.33. I like this area up here better for a short. And so I'd be looking out in that spot for a short. And that's really about it as far as the Russell. Because again, I think all the indexes overall, because you have that, and I'll just get rid of these just to clean it up. All these indexes have this big candle, which is kind of effing everything up. I mean, it was great yesterday. I hear everybody's talking about yeah, it was great if you actually managed to catch that. If you were long and you caught that, congratulations, good for you. And if just look at it on the other side, there were people who were short. So, they got their faces ripped off, especially if they didn't have a stop or anything. So, and if you made money off that yesterday, don't think you're a fucking genius. Just take it as that you got lucky. And, and if you do that, then your humility is in a place where you're going to survive in this business, in doing this trading business. Because, you did not take a genius to enter a trade like, I'm going to enter a long trade here. You did not have the foresight or the insight that this was going to do this. So, and if you did make a killing yesterday off that, again, humility is everything. Because as quickly as you made it right here, you can lose it just as fast. So, hats off. But anyway, that's why equities are going to be kind of a tough go today. All right, so we went over equities. Let's go over oil. I did one trade in oil yesterday. I did an oil short last night down in here. Didn't get a lot. I think I made I made 20. I think I made 20 or 30 bucks. It was a micro. I saw it move. It literally, I shorted it and it moved literally 30 seconds later and it dropped like 10 or 30 points. And I was like, you know what? I'm out. I'm done. I made like $30 in like 10 seconds, 10 or 15 seconds. And I was like, you know what? That's enough. And I actually held on for a little bit. I was like, all right, and it started to bounce. And I was like, you know what? I'm getting out because the way crude's been trading, it's been doing that, but then it's also been just like ripping right back up. And I was like $30 in the overnight trade. I was like, cha-ching, have a nice day. And now I can go get myself a 2-4 at Chili's. So anyway, I don't know what the charts can really tell you on crude oil. To be honest, it is absolutely 100% all driven by headlines. I've done my due diligence too, where I've done this and been like, yeah, this is support. This is, and then, something comes out and it's just like boom, right? And it's almost mental in fact, it is mental masturbation right now to even put this. That's why I turned it off, because to put this even on there, yeah, it looks great when you're putting the chart up here now in hindsight and looking back and go, yeah, they bought these lows and it bounced and blah, 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 blah. Right? This was the big sell-off yesterday from the big rally in equities. But, this is like a one-tick thing, and then we were gone. And so how much validity does that have? So let's go to a 30-minute. And it might get a little clearer. But again, it's starting to get dicier. Because now you have this area, but why did it bounce here? It's likely because it was a headline, right? Was it because it was a support? No, because it's not aligning, right? And so that's why I've kind of failed to trade crude and even look at the charts, because it's misleading. It is absolutely misleading, because as much as you want to be a technical trader, the technicals have nothing to do with it right now. Because you can be technically right and then get your face ripped off because of a tweet or a news headline. And to me, it's just not worth that added stress. Trading's hard enough as it is now. I want to actually every time. Now, look, when I'm trading crude oil, I'm not risking more than $20 or $30 because I'm trading micros, and that's about all I will put on the line. I don't usually trade more than one, but what I'm noticing that even on my stops, I'm getting a lot of slippage. Like I'll have a $30 stop, 30 tick stop, and I'll get stopped out. And I'll get stopped out, and it'll be a $40 loss. It'll like slip 10 ticks from my stop. I don't like that, because if it can slip $10, it can slip 20, 30, or 40, or even 50. And I don't like that. To me, that's too risky. And so anyway, that's kind of why I've avoided trading crude. Although if you have been and you're doing it and you're hitting it right, you're making a shit ton of money right now, because crude is one of the only assets that's really kind of whipping around enough. Trader's paradise, right? It's moving there. It's got all the food groups are represented, right? It's been volatile. It's been moving fast. And it's got tons and tons of volume right now. So anyway, that's it. I just thought I'd put the chart up there. I don't really even know if it even, again, what does it all mean? It's a mess to me. It's an absolute mess. All right. And so with that, let's move into some stocks. I changed the game. I changed my game. Here I am going with, and we will look at, and I will take this off. I am changing up. I actually put this up here for CoreWeave. And let me actually, I don't have that open. Don't have Tasty Trade open. There it is. You have to look at my screen here for a second because I have to log in. Here, let me do this real fast just to clean things up. Getting to 8:30 here. I got to wrap this up soon. I got crap to do. But I do want to look at CoreWeave. And I want to get my privacy mode. Trade. All right. And I do want to just look at one stock, CoreWeave. All right. So, CoreWeave. So now looking at the charts here, I like this area. So I'm going to be looking to sell. I didn't do it yesterday, but I'm going to be doing it today because I kind of like the fact that, you know, we were up fairly big yesterday and I don't like to do anything. I'd rather do it on a day like today where we're kind of not down. We're kind of like flat. But I'm going to sell some calls over 115 and I'm going to sell some puts under 70. And I'm going to go out to, we got 36 in May. I might do June. I don't know. We'll do May first. The 70 puts are $3.05. And the 115s are $2.50. Now you can see it here. You don't get a break on the buying power. Now I don't have, this is in an IRA, so I don't have like buying power in there. I don't have it margined. I don't want it margined. But if you had a margin account, this likely may be cheaper. It might be around $1,700. Still, I don't recommend that. What I would recommend you do is just do a wider iron condor. So do like a 115, 120, and a 70-60. All right, you can do that. I'm going to try and do that for $3 now. So you're going to risk, your max loss is 700. So the worst thing that can happen is, you know, lose 700 or to make 300. You got a 64% probability of profit. This is what it looks like on the curve. Nice looking trade again. And this is completely delta neutral, right? It is absolutely delta neutral. And the nice thing about this, and don't mind this, this gets whacked out sometimes. I don't know why it does that. Let's see. Oh, there it goes. But you know, this gives you a good range, you know, pretty much down to 67.5, as high as 117.5 is pretty much your range here. And you know, it's not a long term. You have 36 days on this. So, and I would look to hold on to this for maybe a week, week and a half. Have this burn down. Now, I wish the IV rank was a little higher. It was a couple of days ago. But, you know, look, I'll take that right now, especially on this stock because it is range bound. And that's kind of my trade there. And I might even stack these. And what I mean by stacking them, you know, if it continues to go up, I will do like an 80 or a 75, 65. Right? I will stack them in between. So if you go up here, I will do the 60, I'll do the 75, 65. Right? This has 2.5 wide, so I can actually even do those. Right? I could actually do a 67.5 and a 77, right? So I can actually do those as well. And I would stack this. You know, I usually don't go more than 2 or 3, but then you can stack these that way. And that's how you build a position like with iron condors in a stock like CoreWeave. All right, so that's it. That's all I have. Have a good trading day today. I do think there was some crap coming out today. Wasn't there something? Continuing jobless. Oh, there's always continuing jobless claims. It doesn't look like a market gives a freak. It's still going to be all driven by Earl. So that's it. So have a good one today, and I will be back tomorrow.